Hey guys, it's Matthew here. There we go. The pig. How you guys doing today? Good, hopefully. Hopefully your week's been going all right. Not much to say. I have a song that I want to play. I don't think there's a song that I've repeated yet, but this song is called "Lord, It Was You." The lyrics are in the description. If you want to read or sing along or whatever, All right. Lord, it was you who created the heavens. Lord, it was your hand that put stars in their place. Lord, it was your voice who commands the morning, and even oceans and their waves bow at your feet. Lord, who am I compared to your glory? Oh Lord, who am I compared to your majesty? And I'm your beloved, your creation, and you love me as I am. You call me chosen for your kingdom, unashamed to call me your home. I'm your beloved. Lord, it was you who created the heavens. Lord, it was your hand that put stars in their place. Oh, Lord, it was your voice who commands the morning, even oceans and their waves bow at your feet. Lord, who am I compared to your glory? Lord, who am I compared to your majesty? And I'm your beloved, your creation, and you love me as I am. You call me chosen for your kingdom, unashamed to call me your home. I'm your beloved, your creation, and you love me as I am. You call me chosen for your kingdom, unashamed to call me your home. I'm your beloved. I'm your beloved. Now, normally, songs that I sing in the beginning don't pertain, or very little, like a very small amount pertain. It's a coincidental occurrence, usually, if they pertain to what I'm about to talk about. But today is pretty apropos of the song that is. And it talks about we are God's beloved children. Like in the Psalms, David says, "Lord, who am I that you consider me? Who am I, and who is man that you consider him?" Who are we? And then David, in his point, he kind of diminishes. Well, in one psalm he kind of diminishes it. In the other psalm, he exalts man, and he says in one psalm he says who am I, and then he just leaves it at that. And in another psalm he says, who are we, and then he says, you've given man dominion over the works of your hands. You've given him dominion over all that you've created. Wow, amazing. So he's given us all these great benefits, right? Just for being people, just for being humans. And it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. But we as human beings don't recognize it most of the time when God has done something great for us. We just don't, I don't know, we don't appreciate the life we've been given a lot of times because of all the hardships that we encounter, all the difficult things, the things we treasure, we lose. And it just doesn't seem fair, and we like to blame someone, and usually that someone is God. Because, if my life's not going well, it's nobody's fault but God. Not true, but that's what we think, right? So, I'm going to talk about just how incredible it is that the Lord of the universe, now the Lord and God of the universe, now I am talking about Jesus here, wants to be with us. He wants to have time. He wants to spend time with us. Yeah, have you ever met a person that you just absolutely love spending time with? I want to be around that person more and more. Whether it be the way they talk or their knowledge or their experiences, there's something about them that really draws you to them. It could be their kindness, their love to people. I've had those experiences many times in my life where I'm just that person knows something that I don't. Not in when I was saying that, I didn't mean even intellectually know. I mean knows something deep down that I don't know, and it's being portrayed in their actions. And I want to be around that person so that I can learn what that is exactly that they have that I don't have. It happened a lot, especially when I was younger, but it still happens today, just less often. Not that I'm better off. It's weird. I'm not saying that I have somehow come to a place where I'm so much better than I was previously. It's just that I'm meeting less and less of those type of people. Maybe that's my bad for not increasing my horizons in my social sphere. But yeah, that's just the way it is for me. I'm not saying that's the way it is for everyone. Absolutely not. I'm sure some people experience that almost every day, right? They're around people that they just admire and they want to be around even more. Some people's spouses, that could be it for some people. It's their spouse. That'd be really nice, actually, to have a spouse. And in fact, if it was a mutual, that'd be great. If you mutually thought of each other, how much more awesome my life would be if I was with that person every day, and that I could learn from this mysterious, character attribute that they show in their lives that I don't have. That'd be really awesome to find someone like that you can spend the rest of your life with. And I think that's kind of intentional. I think you need to find someone at least somewhat like that for you to marry them. Yeah, so let's go to Colossians. Colossians chapter 1. We're going to breeze through. We've talked about Colossians before, especially on chapter 2, or rather 3, when we talked about putting to death things, putting to death the old man, and then rising again to the new man. We've talked about that, I don't know, it was a couple months ago now. And it was good. If you want to listen to that, you can. I don't know exactly the date, but it should be like something. The title should be something like "Put on the New Man" or "Death to the Old, In with the New," something like that. That's the title of that series or that message, I guess. But Colossians chapter 1. Paul, and I guess I should, this is Paul talking to the people of Colossae. And I should probably preface this by saying Paul has assumptions in his writing of the reader. Like, he's met these people before. He's met with them. He's taught them before. He's interacted with them before. So when he says something, it's with the assumption that they know his character and they know where he's coming from, right? Yeah. So, like, and sometimes even he'll mention a few key phrases that aren't really explored in the book or in the letter that he's writing to particular people. But in other letters, he expounds on that phrase because I guess they don't know, right? They don't know that phrase. They don't know, like, works of the law. Sometimes that phrase in particular is one of those phrases that have a packed meaning that's more than just the words on the text. And it's explained in other books, but not so much, let's say, in this book, or then where it's just briefly mentioned, where the author, Paul, assumes that the reader, Colossae, knows what he's talking about when he says these words, because he's already had conversations about these in the past. So all he needs to do is mention them, and they know what he's talking about, right? That happens all throughout the Bible, and the reason why you can't take any single letter by itself, you can, but it's not wise, right? You got to take them all. You've got to take them all. Specifically all Paul's letters. You got to take all those as one, right? Because he's not saying different things in these letters, and then you got to take all the letters of the New Testament, and there should be some cohesion. There shouldn't be some drastic, like, battle, right? Contradictions. Thank you. There shouldn't be any contradictions between, let's say, the writer of the book of James and the writer of the book of Colossians. So Paul and James. There shouldn't be any, like, one says you need to work for your salvation and the other one says, you don't need to do anything for your salvation. Like, there shouldn't be contradictions like that in the Bible, and there isn't. And if you think there is, you can either talk to someone about it or just read. I would just advise you just read more and read it again, because that's the only way you're going to put everything in context is if you read the Bible as a whole in the context of the Bible. The context of the Bible is the Bible. If you bring any literary sources outside of the Bible into the Bible, it's probably going to be wrong. That's just the way it is. So, okay, now we can get started, I guess. Now that we preface that. So Paul's talking about walking worthy to the Lord. It says in verse 9, for this reason. Okay, let me go back a little bit more. 7. We'll go verse 7. As you've learned from Epaphras, our dear fellow servant, who's a faithful minister of Christ on your behalf, who also declared to us your love in the Spirit. For this reason we also, since the day we heard it, your love in the Spirit, do not cease to pray for you and to ask that you may be filled with the knowledge of his will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding, that you may walk worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing him, being fruitful in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of God. Okay. Keeps going. Awesome things that God gives us through his grace. Right? Keeps going in that vein. He delivered us from the power of darkness and conveyed us into the kingdom of the Son of his love. That's the Father, right? God the Father. And so there's an assumption being made here. Paul's assumption is that these people are sincerely following Jesus. He's not imposing upon them all these regulations, and you'll see some of these things where he says to do, not to do, right? He's not imposing these commandments, I guess, on the people of Colossae, but rather exposing the truth of what is pleasing to Jesus, if they hadn't already known, right? It's what is pleasing and not pleasing to Jesus. And you could say, well, that's not the same thing. Not really, because there's a relationship that is already built here with Jesus. And so when Paul says certain things like this is not good, this is good, he's putting words to the thoughts that they already have in their head, or words to the conscience within their spirit that's already saying this is not good and this is good. Very rarely, if Paul says something to these people, is he saying something new? Is he saying something that they've never heard before, or that really surprises them? This is just common. This is just a common thought process in these people's heads, minds. Yet, of course, that is wrong. Of course, this is good, right? But it's just putting words and images to what they already know. It says, Jesus, right, the Son of his love, in whom we have redemption through his blood, Jesus' blood, the forgiveness of sins. Jesus is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For by him all things were created that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible. Whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, it's talking about spiritual entities, angels and demons and the like. All things were created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things consist, or all things hold together. Right? Man, Jesus sounds like an amazing dude. He's this all-powerful creator, right? Created all of this, everything visible and invisible. He created it all. Like in his walk, in his life that we see in the Gospels, he raises blind men, or raises the dead men. He gives sight to the blind. He makes the lame walk and the deaf to hear, right? And along with a bunch of other things that he does that are miraculous in nature. He has this all authority. He has all authority in his words, and in his before the earth was even made, he had the authority to speak it into existence. And by his word, in another place in the Bible, it says, by his word all things consist, or all things hold together. So this God, this Lord God that is way above our comprehension in power and authority, comes down to our level so that we can approach him. He's approachable. He's understandable. He can speak to us on a normal level with human language. There's a part in the Gospels where it's Nicodemus. It's John chapter 3, and Jesus is saying to him, I've spoken to you in earthly language, and you still don't understand. Like, what would you do if I spoke in a heavenly language, like about heavenly things? And it's just like mind-boggling. Like, he's talking about birth in that section, talking about being born again, and and Nicodemus is totally lost, totally confused on what Jesus meant. But Jesus was still trying to speak to him in layman terms, layman language, right? And so Jesus, is all-powerful creator, is also approachable enough so that kids want to be next to him. Kids were hearing him. Kids and adults alike were listening to Jesus for hours on end. And you think, what kids, what ADD, what are all that? What are their attention deficit disorders? Because I'm surely there are some these kids aren't all well behaved amongst their parents, but when they come to Jesus, they're listening attentively because they can see maybe through his actions or his words that he really cares and that he really loves them as individuals, as who they are. And, there's not a whole lot of people like that. Most people are in it for themselves. Most people are completely self-absorbed to where they can't see beyond, right in front of them. I mean, maybe their families, right? Maybe their families, their children, their extended family is a stretch, right? Definitely immediate family. You can see some love in people, especially for their immediate family. But when it comes to anybody else, the guy on the streets or the Walmart cashier or something, you know what I mean? Anyone else, it's just they're nobody. I don't want to talk to them. That's the majority of people. Majority of people are just in it for themselves. That's just how it is. Jesus demonstrated something completely different, and he demonstrated that he really cares for us and really treasured us as his creation. He's proud. He doesn't. Oh man, I'm trying to think if it's probably not here. No, it's not. It's not in Colossians. But he's not ashamed to call us brethren. I can't remember where that's at, but that's in the Bible. He's not ashamed to call us brethren. Even when we're the most ashamed of ourselves. It says, for while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. He didn't need us to change before he loved us, before he showed and demonstrated his love for us. He didn't need us to somehow get molded beforehand. No. Jesus, in our relationship with Jesus, we see what is pleasing and what is not pleasing to him. And we change accordingly. So we're just skipping entirely over chapter 2. Although chapter 2 talks about how Jesus was made close to us through his death and resurrection. It's good. It's a good chapter. You should read it. But chapter 3, it says, if then you were raised with Christ, because we die with him and we raised with him, right? Seek those things which are above, where Christ is, sitting at the right hand of God. So seek the things which are above, where Christ is. If that doesn't, it's okay. If that doesn't make sense, the next verse. Set your mind on things above, not on the things of earth, or not on things on the earth. That's what it says. Not on things on the earth. So don't be looking for don't seek after your newest television series. That might be difficult. I shouldn't put stipulations on it, because you and your relationship with God, it's going to be you and your relationship with God. It's not my relationship with. I'm not a part of your relationship with God unless you clue me in, right? Your neighbor isn't part of your relationship with God unless you clue him in. Your relationship with God and you, even if you do start sharing some things that God has done in your life, it's not like you share everything. It's not like your whole relationship's exposed before the person. No. It says to each individual, he'll fall. What was it? I wish I wrote these scriptures down. But each individual, he'll stand or fall, on his own merits or lack thereof, right? So every individual is going to be judged by the master. No individual should judge another individual who is of the same master. Doesn't work that way. I'm not saying you can't make judgments like this is wrong, this is sin, don't do this, because God clearly says adultery is wrong, murder is wrong. There's a whole line of things. I'm not going to get into everything. There's certain things that we know are wrong, and if they admit these things, then we can be very confident in saying these are wrong. I'm not saying you can't somehow judge that a person's doing wrong if they tell you that they're doing wrong, basically. If they're telling you that they're fornicating with their, neighbor, whatever, then you can say, hey, that's sin. God says it's sin. That's pretty clear. But, however, we're still not to judge another person. Let's say Paul mentions meat. Sometimes in our present day, we might think of alcohol or cigarettes. We might think of that nature where, there's weak brethren and stronger brethren. Doesn't matter. If you consider yourself the strong brethren and you don't smoke, don't condemn those who do. And then those who do smoke, don't look down on those who, don't look down on those who don't smoke, whatever. It's like, I don't know, that's maybe not the best analogy, but even in that situation, you're not supposed to judge another, right? Drunkenness, sure. Drunkenness is sin. We can say that pretty definitively. Having a drink in public, I wouldn't do it, but, maybe I have done it, but I try not to do it. I have done it, but I try not to do it if it's preventable, which it always is. That's just an excuse I'm making. I do try not to do it. But I don't do it alone. I'll put it that way, which is still not a good. It's not a good reason. It's not a good excuse either. I think my ideals, I'm not going to justify myself. So, but there's things where you have to stand. Like I have to stand before God, whether or not that's wrong or not. Like drinking in public. Even if I drink, even if it's just one drink, doesn't matter. Some person's going to think, some Christian brother that I know, if he comes into that bar or whatever and sees me drinking in public, might stumble because of that. Maybe. I don't know though. So I would have to talk it out with that brother. I don't want to cause that situation to happen, but to each person, he'll stand or fall to his master, and our master is God. So set your mind on things above, not on things on earth. For you died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is our life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. And then it says, put to death all these has a list. Then put on all these good things has a list. And so, yeah, there's so much here that I want to get to, but I'm not going to. The problem, I guess, this is pretty low key message, but we have to seek Him in our relationship. And if there's 100 voices telling you not to do something, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do something. And if there's 100 voices telling you to do something, that doesn't mean you should do that something. Jesus' voice is all that matters. Listen to Him. So even if I tell you not to drink in public or not to smoke or whatever, don't listen to me just because I'm saying it. Or just because maybe I have a position or something that you respect. Don't do that. Don't do that. Look to the Bible. Look to what God says. And most importantly, in your relationship with God, every day that you have communion with God, you are building that relationship with Him. And you want to, Jesus is waiting. I'll put it that way. Jesus is waiting. He wants to be in your company. Does Jesus fulfill that for you? Do you find it very pleasurable to be in Jesus' company? Or do you find it unbearable? It's one of the two usually. It's usually unbearable or close to it or pleasurable. If you are in the unbearable camp, I'll say you're struggling, right? Which is good that you're struggling. But I think the struggling can come to an end if you realize the truth that God loves you, that God wants to be with you. And I could say, so I am speaking about Jesus here too, and more specifically Jesus. Jesus wants to be in your company. He wants to hang out with you. He wants to talk with you. Just chat. How's your day going? Oh, that happened? Like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's deal with it, whatever. Or that's awesome. That's great. Or what have you thought about so-and-so? Have you thought about such and such? You know, Jesus will speak to you about things in your life. And when you finally surrendered everything that you are to Him, then you can be free. And you'll find that things of Jesus are absolutely pleasurable. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say. I've run out of time. I just hope you've gained something from this. And if you gained anything, hopefully you've gained be with Him. Just be with Jesus. The ultimate creator of the world. Right? Ultimate creator. The creator of the world. Be with Him. He wants to be with you. Yeah. God bless you. See you guys later.